Welcome. This is MoneyHeart, where we explore the emotional side of money. I'm Camille Diaz, and today we're discussing the 12 tenets of abundance. My guest is Nichole Jones. She's a holistic life coach who uses the technology of yoga and its sister science, Ayurveda, to help super stressed out, overachieving women bring their mind, body, and spirit back into balance, understand themselves and why they do what they do, so they make better decisions, create better boundaries, like themselves, and enjoy their life. Nichole, welcome to MoneyHeart.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, thank you for being here. I'm excited to have you on the show. That is a whole lot of stuff that you do there. That's pretty cool.
It's a mouthful. I do have it more succinct than other places, but yeah.
Well, I may resemble that overachieving, stressed out person remark. I think I've done that before. I'm familiar with how that looks.
I am too. I am too, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm excited about this topic today. It's your 12 tenets of abundance. What is this about? What are these 12 tenets about? How did you come up with them? All that kind of stuff. Clue us in.
Yeah. So these are really about my own journey with my own money mindset, which for most of my life was pretty crappy. So I've done a lot of reading, a lot of inner work, mindset work around my own mindset around abundance. And these are the things that I've just sort of collected over the years that help bring me back to a place of feeling abundant and out of the place of having a lot of scarcity and fear, because that's really where I function from for a big part of my life.
Yeah.
And these help me just kind of be like, okay, these are my reminders that help me stay optimistic and in potential versus like, oh my God, everything's going to end. Like, I'm going to like lose my house. I'm going to like, blah, 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 like all the things that would go through my head. So these kind of help me stay in the moment and like move forward.
I love that concept of staying in potential. So seeing what could happen rather than imagining the worst case scenario. That's a really cool way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was really good catastrophizing.
Catastrophizing. Yeah. Aren't we all?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the worst possible thing that could happen? Wait, no, there has to be something worse than that. Keep thinking about this problem.
My brain will find it. Always.
Yes,
always.
I know I can find the worst possible thing. I know I can.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. All right. So lead us into these 12 tenets. What is the first one?
Okay. So the first one is money doesn't solve money problems. And
aww,
I know.
Bubble just
I lived that for so long. Like, okay, once I just have this job or make this much money, like everything's going to be so good. And my husband and I have really lived this like up and down thing with money where we'd come into a whole bunch and then we'd be like, and then suddenly we get into a bunch of debt and then we go up and we go down. Like that was sort of our pattern. And this idea comes from the book, Get Rich, Lucky Bitch, or just kind of blew my mind, where she writes about all these celebrities that like had tons and tons of money and then they lost it. You know, like just, I'm trying to MC Hammer, he had tons of money and then he blew it. Like just, you hear, or athletes that make all this money and then they lose it. And the point of it is it's really about changing your mindset around money, your belief structure around money, and changing your habits around money. Like if you can't be responsible for your money, it doesn't matter if you have $10 or 10 million.
You're right. It doesn't matter. It's not going to work out.
Right.
Yeah. So what's number 2?
I am where I am, and that's okay. This is a big one for me because, and this comes from all my listening to Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks, Law of Attraction stuff. It's big for me because I have a tendency to beat myself up for where I am and not being further along, or being like, oh, I made this really stupid decision around anything. Like this is applicable to really anything in your life, relationships, and really anything. So just when I get frustrated with where I am in my business and my life, I just remind myself that I'm on my path. Like this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. I've garnered so much information from everywhere that I've been. I am where I am, and that's okay.
Yeah, I love that. I think we definitely have a tendency to continuously live in this state of beating ourselves up for not being farther along. It's like, no, I should be over here already. No, I should have already done this. No, I should have already. It's like, you're good. You've done a ton. And we kind of lose that perspective of how far we've come, because we're so busy looking at how far we didn't go yet.
Right.
So yeah,
and that just keeps you stuck in where you are. And you're like not going with the flow. You're fighting against what is. Mm-hmm. You're fighting against upstream. You're going upstream is what Abraham Hicks would say. And then you drown.
Yeah.
Don't get anywhere.
Yeah. Don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
All right. What's the third one?
I love this one because people don't like it. Don't focus on reality. So this is related to the last one. It's like, oh my gosh, I've got this much debt, or I'm living in this same house, or I'm living, like I'm still in the same place. Like, we have all this stuff going on in my life. And like, the more you focus on that, the more that's what you're going to get. Right? You get what you
wherever you're putting your energy and your focus and your intention, that's what's going to happen. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So you see reality, but then, okay, this is what it is. I'm not going to linger there. I'm going to continue to create.
Yeah.
And move forward.
That's great. Okay. What's the fourth one?
This one's a big one for me too. Living within your means is an act of self-love. I got this one from Money is a Love Story, the book by Kate Northrup. This was a big aha for me because I come from a place where we didn't have a lot of money, and all my friends had a lot of money, but we did not. And so when I was like, once I had a little bit, I was like, oh, I can like celebrate, like I can buy all this stuff. And like, if I say no to myself, then it's like, oh, that's scarcity mindset or something. Like I had this twisted way of thinking about it. And then when I read that book and it really hit me, it's like, oh, like living within my means is an act of self-love, because I'm not pushing myself to live beyond that, which can create so much stress. And it's about discernment with what do you really need and want in your life in this moment.
I love this concept. And I think this is almost that slippery slope where people get stuck of thinking, well, I need to have an abundance mindset, so I'm going to act like I already have all the things, which means I got to go buy all the stuff. I got to just take the plunge, put it on the credit card, whatever. And then it may not work the way you think it's going to work because you're sort of forcing it. Mm-hmm. And you just end up with a bigger pile of disaster. It's really that concept of gifting your future self nice things. And that nice thing being not being stressed about money, not having a credit card bill you can't pay, things like that. Those are wonderful gifts for your future self.
Right. But that really comes from when you are act as if is number 5. And we'll talk, I'll skip to that as we talk about this. But when you're doing that, like this action from a place of scarcity because you want to feel abundant, that's coming from scarcity, and that's not necessarily going to create the abundance you want to have in your life. Mm-hmm. So act as if, and you will feel as if you have money. This means, in my mind, it's my 5th one, so we'll have to go back to 4 in a second, but it's about really feeling as if, like, what would it feel like if I could buy this blouse or whatever it is that you want? Like, oh, that would feel so good. Okay, well, I'm just going to feel what this feels like, or feel what it feels like to be abundant as I visualize it, and then trust that it's going to come to me. But you don't have to force it.
Right. Yeah. So you can feel the feeling of
Mhm.
having bought the thing or done the thing, or you can imagine that feeling without actually having to spend the money to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's free.
Yeah, it is. And it's the way you draw things to you is like like, okay, I can buy this if I want to, and I'm going to feel it because you could, right? You could do that with your credit
Sure.
card, whatever. And then
Good.
but it's about the discernment piece again.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So
Okay.
what's next?
So money, this one's big. And this has just been this is just cumulative of all the reading and everything I've done. Money doesn't define your worthiness, neither does your debt.
Mm.
For so long, I was like, have to, like I said, I grew up surrounded by a lot of wealth and we didn't have that at all. Like, oh, if I could just be this, I would be worthy. If I had this in this way, I would be worthy. And so I just always was striving towards that. But then I also found myself in tremendous amounts of debt in my adulthood. And that I beat myself up for that. So like I couldn't win, but
Mhm.
I'm worthy no matter what.
Yeah.
I'm worthy if there's money or if there's not money or if there's debt. Like none of it has to define who you are. It's all a neutral circumstance, all of it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Our worth is separate from the bank
Mhm.
account.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
People get so upset about their debt. And I know I did too. Like I so understand that. It's bad. That is bad. Like things we hear about it.
Mhm.
And it's that thing, the more you focus on something, the more you're going to get of it. So
Right? The more you focus on debt, the more debt you end up with.
exactly.
So yeah, and just instead of thinking of debt as bad, thinking of it as something like, I would prefer not to have debt. My life is easier when I don't, so I'm going to gift myself getting out of debt so that I can have less stress,
Yeah.
enjoy things more, rather than looking at it as it's such a terrible thing, because sometimes debt's helpful. Most of us don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy a house,
Yeah.
right out of pocket. So having a mortgage is kind of a helpful thing. So,
Yeah.
I mean, is that good debt? Does there have to be good debt and bad debt? Or can there just be that's debt and I'm using it in the
Right.
way I choose to use it? So, yeah. Yeah. Okay. What's the next one?
Money is prana. It needs to flow.
Mm.
So in yoga and Ayurveda, prana is the ultimate life force. It gives us energy to move and create and exist. I mean, we think of prana a lot if you go to a yoga class, like about the breath. And that is one way of working with the prana, but breath is not necessarily prana, but it's this connection to the divine that puts us here to be living, breathing, animated, decision-making individuals.
Uh-huh.
And the tantric view is that money is just energy. So therefore money is prana.
Mhm.
And it needs to flow. So prana gets stuck and you want to unstick the prana because then, and prana can get stuck when it comes to money as far in ways of like really wanting it a lot, like the attachment,
Mm.
striving for it, or if you have it and you hoard it, like money, it always needs to be flowing and moving. And there's practices you can do to help move your prana, which are not directly related to moving money as energy, but it's same means to an end. Like it's the same thing. And eventually, through yogic practices and Ayurvedic practices, you can get to a place of moksha, which is freedom, where you're manifesting all this stuff, but you don't even care. Like, because you've let go of everything.
Right.
I'm not there yet, but it's a cool thought.
Yes. Is there something specific or simple that somebody could start doing that would kind of help get them on this path?
Just breath work.
Okay.
A simple breathing practice where you breathe in for equal inhale and out exhale. So like breathe in for 5, breathe out for 5. Like just something that simple, just starting to like regulate and notice the breath, which is not exactly prana, but it is
Mhm.
in a way. So just like breathing. Sun salutations, which is a yogic, I don't know if you're familiar with sun salutations, but it's a very
Mhm.
specific sequence of postures that you move through, things like that. mindset work, becoming more aware of how you think.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Paying attention to that stuff that pops up and not necessarily judging the stuff that comes up, because that's where we got stuck before, the good, bad, whatever. Just noticing, that's interesting. Okay. What feedback is that giving me? What information am I getting from this thought that I just had? And being more curious about what you're thinking or what you're doing, rather than going, oh, I hate when I do that, because that's where we get all trapped and into that downward spiral again.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Next one.
Gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership, which this is a quote from Joe Dispenza, who I adore. And I'm a huge fan of Brene Brown, who has all of her research on gratitude and vulnerability and joy and shame and all that.
Yeah.
But sitting in gratitude every day, feeling, just noticing the little things. I really feel like it's the little things in life that make it joyful versus those big wins. I mean, the big wins are great, but they don't last as much as like, I have running water. I have electricity. My body's working the way it's supposed to, like it's those little things that really, really matter. And the more you sit in gratitude, the more you draw to what you want. And it totally shifts your perspective. Gratitude was the first thing I've ever done on my path to feeling more abundant. And I really went from being pretty pessimistic to a pretty optimistic person, where I'll like just start, like I'll be out in public and like, oh my God, so beautiful. So weird. Like, what the hell's going on?
Okay. Just want to validate you on that one, because I cry for like everything. And seriously, like somebody does something really cool and I start crying, and I watch a movie and there's a little touching part and everyone else is like, oh, that was sweet. And I'm like, like just I cry for everything. And I think it's part of being tapped into that. It's just part of recognizing like when something really amazing happens and being grateful for it and going, and actually letting it touch you, not being closed off to that opportunity to experience life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good practice. That's 5 things a day. All you have to do is think of 5 things a day to be grateful for, and it'll start the shifts in your brain.
It really does. It really does. And so sometimes I play with this, and rather than only being grateful for things that are happening right now, I am grateful for things that I'm wanting to have happen in my future. I just go ahead and start being grateful for them right now.
Yeah.
And guess what shows up?
The stuff you want.
That's great.
Or the experiences, whatever it is.
It happens because I just go, yeah, let's do that. And I'm so glad we did that. And next thing I know, it's on the calendar. It's awesome.
So fun.
Yeah. Okay. Next one.
Feel all of your feelings so you avoid spiritual bypassing. So we're talking about like things like gratitude. You're like, I'm just going to feel grateful, which people will start, then they'll push aside the negative stuff. And this is one of the things, if you don't feel your feelings, prana gets stuck. So like just allowing yourself to feel the disappointment for where you are, if you're frustrated with that,
right,
or the anger or whatever it is, always allow yourself to have that time to feel into it. And sometimes it takes a while, but most emotions we digest in about 60 to 90 seconds. So just taking that little bit of time to really let it move through you, feel it in your body. Like, oh, I'm really angry and if my chest is tight, or I'm anxious and my stomach is tight. And just like let yourself feel into that for a few minutes, or, a minute and a half, and just let it flow so you don't get stuck.
That is a really short amount of time. I think, when someone says feel all of your feelings, we might be a little bit intimidated by that, because we're like, which is another feeling, right? Like, so you immediately feel that feeling. You're like, I don't want to, I'm going to be trapped there. I have to be sad all day. I have to be angry all day. I have to whatever in order to fully experience my range of emotions. But you don't have to like live there. You can just be angry for a minute or two and go, oh, that was really awful. Okay. What's next? And move on rather than have one bad thing happen and I got to live in it.
Yeah. For the whole day or the week or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Or forever or however.
Oh,
Yeah.
forever. There's some people
Forever.
that hold on to stuff for forever. And, there's some emotions that are related to traumas that aren't going to move in 60 to 90 seconds. And you probably need support around helping yourself feel that and move through it.
Yeah.
But just regular emotions on a day-to-day basis, when you spill your cup of coffee, so your whole day doesn't have to be, I'm sorry. Can I say that word?
I'll find a bleep button.
Be bad because of that. Sorry. Like you can decide and feel it and like let it flow through you. And that's the thing with emotions. They are like everything, like thoughts. They're impermanent. They are transient. They're always going to move. You're not going to be stuck in it forever. But I know I have lots of clients who are like, I don't want to feel that. Like, do I have to go there? And we just like, touch into it little by little.
Yeah.
And get comfortable with feeling emotion.
Right. And you get more used to it, as you do it and experience the feelings over and over, you're like, okay, now I know what that really intense anger feels like, or the fear feels like. And so then it's not so weird the next time that it comes up. And yeah. And I love your point about the trauma. If you have genuine trauma and it's really making things stick with you, get support around that. It's super important because it won't go away until you deal with it. It's always going to find a way to keep coming back until you've actually worked through it. So,
right.
Okay. What's next?
Manifestation responds to vibration. So this is kind of like I'm going to buy this thing because I want it. I want to be in the abundance mindset. But if you are coming from a place of scarcity at your vibrational level, that's where you're going to stay. So working on your vibration, which doing things like gratitude is a great way of doing that. Breathing practices, thought work, mindset work, because I think most people function at about 95% unconscious, about 95% unconscious. So, and that's steering the wheel a lot in our lives and our decisions that we make and how we think and act and all that. So like really taking the time to study yourself so you know what's really motivating you is very important, because you can keep thinking all the positive thoughts in the world, and you can think some positive thoughts into your subconscious brain, but it's going to take some time. It really does. And there's other ways that can move it along a little faster.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Okay, next one.
This is a question I ask myself. Is this an upper limit problem? So the upper limit is a term coined by Gay Hendricks. I think that's his last name, Hendricks. It's in the book, The Big Leap. And what he says is that we all he uses the word thermometer, but I like the word vibration. We all sort of vibrate at a certain level all the time. And our level of vibration was set in childhood, where with the things we saw our parents talk about, with the things that we experienced, and the little traumas that kind of added up to who we think we are. So we have this vibration. And then when something amazing happens to us, people will tend to self-sabotage and bring themselves back to the same vibration. So that can happen with anxiety, or people even get sick. I've had times where I've had something big going on in the morning or that day, and I'm like, I have a sore throat. And then I'm like, wait, is this an upper limit problem? And it's like the sore throat is gone. It's this unconscious self-sabotaging that keeps us functioning at the same place versus expanding, because we don't feel safe or comfortable or worthy or whatever to be vibrating at a higher vibration.
Yeah. Like the part where you probably make more sales if you made some calls, but all of a sudden you're freaked out about making calls.
Yeah. Or you're like, oh, I really should go to this networking thing, but I'm really tired, and I don't think I feel good, and the dog needs to be walked, and
yeah. Screen doors coming off the hinges, have to fix it right now. Just everything. All right now. Yes. I don't know if anybody knew that was a Jim Rohn reference on the screen door. That's one of his things, why people don't show up, all of the reasons. And I think you're hitting it directly. It's an upper limit problem. Can't break out of where we currently are right now. So when the opportunity comes, we're going to find every possible reason to stay where we are, because that's where we're comfortable. And until you can recognize, oh, wait, I think I'm having an upper limit problem. Let's go do the thing anyway.
Yeah.
You'll still be there. So,
Mhm.
Okay, next one.
Your outer world reflects your inner world. I remember a coach saying this to me a long time ago, and it really did not sit well with me. It made me angry.
That's hard. Like when you realize what's going on around you is because of what's going on in you, you're like, oh, I don't know about that. I think I would prefer not.
Like, no way. I want to be abundant. I want to have money. Oh, I'm thinking all these thoughts. I'm doing all this stuff. It's like, well, what's really going on? And it's like, there's just so much self-study to be done, around this kind of thing. And it's hard to hear. We want to blame other people.
Right.
Which takes me to the last one, which is that I am 100% responsible for my results in my life.
Yes.
It's so much easier when you're like, but the screen door is broken. The dog needs to go. But this person said no, this client didn't sign. This I've got all this debt. I can't do this, whatever. It's 100, you are 100% responsible for your results. And that's hard because it's easier to live in victim mode. I mean, it is easier because you don't have to take responsibility, but life is not easier.
Long term, it's not easier because nothing ever gets better. That reminds me of a book that I love and frequently recommend to people. And maybe they don't like that I recommend this book. It's called Extreme Ownership. And that's the exact concept is you're responsible for your results. And when you can take that responsibility on, and every time something doesn't go the way you wanted it to, you go, okay, where did I mess this up? Instead of looking for everybody else that did it wrong, or the weather, or a deity, or whatever that's just throwing stuff into your path, you're like, okay, where did I mess this up? Where could I have done something differently to change it? And that has just done wonders for me of thinking, okay, didn't make that sale. I probably said the wrong thing, did the wrong thing, left a piece out, didn't answer a question, didn't address their needs, something along those lines. I'm always looking, how can I improve my process? Not, well, that guy was a jerk,
Right.
It's not helpful. That's not going to fix it. It's not going to fix it.
Not at all, which actually leads me to another tenet that I should have put on here, but it's just getting curious, stepping back and being curious about what is happening. Okay, why is this happening right now? I'm going to just not react and just get curious about it and be open, because you're not going to get your answer right away necessarily when you're curious, but you can step back and be open and non-reactive, because when you're reactive, then you are not happy with where you are, and then you're not going downstream. You're not flowing downstream, you're flowing upstream.
Right. Going the hard way again.
Going the hard way. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I love that. I think that's a great one, because when stuff happens, of just asking a question, okay, what's going on? And not being judgmental about it, not pre-deciding, but really being curious, what's going on? What can I figure out here about what's happening? What feedback am I getting? All of that. And then start using that as a starting place to figure out where to go next or what to do next.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, for those who have been keeping count, we actually covered 14. So yay. Bonuses.
I could keep going probably too.
Awesome. Love it. I love it. What are you most excited about right now? What are you working on right now?
I'm most excited about the fact that I've wrapped up my Ayurvedic coach training and offering that to the world to help the overachiever women that I'm recovering from being. So that feels really good, and really, I'm super excited to move forward with that, implementing more yoga and Ayurveda philosophy and practices into the work that I do. That's
so cool. I think that's going to be great. And I like that you have this overachieving women support group. Maybe you don't have one, but now I'm telling you to start one, because
that'll probably happen on the horizon. I'm just sort of letting everything shift around. It takes a little bit of, there's been a little shifting in the people that I serve. So it's just sort of letting everything shift and fall into place. And And yeah, I'll definitely probably be starting a group.
Yeah.
Future.
I feel like at some point you'll have a group for the recovering overachievers.
Yes.
Yes. It sounds fantastic. Nichole, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to talk about this stuff. It's fun.
It really is. It really is. If you want to download the 12 plus 2 tenets, you can do that at nicholejones.com/money. And if you'd like to get in touch with Nichole, you can email her at Nichole with an H at nicholejones.com or set up a consultation, and I'll put the link to her calendar in the show notes. Thank you as well to all of our listeners and viewers. I'm your host, Camille Diaz. I'm a business optimization coach, financial educator, author, and speaker. You can contact me and find out what I'm up to through my website, CamilleDiaz.com. Follow me on social media at Cam Unfiltered. Be sure to follow MoneyHeart at MoneyHeart Show, and our website is MoneyHeartShow.com. Nichole, what would you like to share today as our money mantra?
The one that keeps me the most grounded. I am where I am, and that's okay.
I love that.
Keep remembering that I am where I am, and that's okay.
Yes, it is beautiful, and it really brings a lot of peace and just like, okay, we're good. Relieves all of that stress and pressure of needing to be further along because we're in the perfect place right now.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.